Hello and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now I'm going to give you a broad overview of what to expect before diving deep and exploring each of the 12 zodiac signs in forensic detail. So please stay with me for that analysis. Now the big takeout of this month is that we have 2 new moons, and when this happens, the second is known as the Black Moon. The first new moon is on the 1st in the go-getting sign of Aries, but it combines with Mercury, the planet of ideas, the planet of communication. Aries energy is about initiation and fresh starts. Let's hope some fresh energy is coming through in a constructive way for us all. The second new moon is in Taurus, the next sign on from Aries, because the Sun moves on into Taurus on the 20th. Now this one is in a sextile with the ruler of Aries, Mars. But Mars moves into the sign of Pisces on the 15th. Now Mars moving through Pisces can be a very meditative, or our actions can be very much behind the scenes. Sometimes people who are involved in enterprises such as mining or deep sea diving have Mars in Pisces in their natal chart. So we can expect some things going on behind the scenes that could be positive. And Mars is also in a conjunction with Saturn in the first 9 days. Now Mars in Capricorn, as it was, especially in its conjunction with Pluto, which became exact on the 3rd of March, is a very, very challenging influence. And we know that there has been an outbreak of violence in the very heart of Europe, which is deeply troubling. But once Mars moved on the 6th of March into the sign of Aquarius, and now at the start of this month is combining with the co-ruler of Aquarius, Saturn, there's a much greater desire, I think, collectively to try to get things working in a way which may not be perfect, but is certainly better than that real fight for power that has been imposed at, the latter end of February and the early parts of March. And one of the very uplifting parts of this month's energies is that Neptune and Jupiter, the 2 co-regents of Pisces, are in a conjunction within 3 degrees through the whole month, and on the 12th that becomes absolutely exact. I think that can be a very healing dimension. I really pray so. Also, Venus moves into Aries on the 5th. Now, Venus in Aries is, to be honest, in detriment. But I actually have always liked Venus in Aries because I think it gives us an impulse to try to relate. To take the first move, not to sit back and wait. So for me, that can be very positive. But on the 11th, Mercury does move from Aries into the sign of Taurus. Now it is going to be clashing with Pluto from the 9th through to the 12th. And that clash of Plutonian energy still in the sign of Capricorn through to 23, part-time goes into Aquarius, then moves into Aquarius in 24, and we really get the start of the Aquarius age, I feel. But we also have the Sun mirroring the right angle with Pluto at the heart of this month, and then that brings in the full moon on the 16th in the sign of Libra. So we have a T-square going between Pluto, the Sun and the moon, and I think that's going to be an interesting point of how there's a pushback against power being used in the wrong way. And the combination of Neptune and Jupiter, which after all, Jupiter is about hope, Neptune can be about healing, but in their home signs, I'm really hoping that there will be a fundamental pushback at the heart of this month, which does see an improvement in Central Europe. Now on the 20th, we do see the Sun, as I mentioned before, moving into Taurus, and then on the 29th, Pluto slams on the brakes. So obviously Uranus was still in retrograde at the start of this year, but this is the first of the big beasts going into their annual retrogrades, and it's going to go on until the 7th of October. This is going to be really interesting, I feel, because the sign of Capricorn is about old power. The sign of Aquarius is much more about taking the best of that old power, but being enlightened about new techniques, being more inclusive. So Pluto going into a retrograde will be interesting for certain political strands in the world. You know, people who've held power in a much more authoritarian way could retreat, or perhaps just reset their purposes. But on the 29th, Mercury does move into its home zone of Gemini, and that can be a really brilliant point for much more communication starting to ping around. Also, the 30th, that wonderful Taurus new moon is in a very positive angle with Mars, suggesting that if we actually take the best of what we already know, or what's been evolving over a very long period of time, which is Mars coming through in its journey, obviously it moves at the heart of this month into the sign of Pisces. So by the end of May, it's going to be readying to go into Gemini, where it's going to be for the rest of the year, because it goes through, and into the first months of next year, because it goes through a retrograde. But I think that what we're going to see as this month comes to a close is much more constructive, workable ways of approaching some of the transitions that may have gone on this month. Now, if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for listening so far. Please, I'd be delighted if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you'd like to get your free written daily horoscope fired to your device each morning, please subscribe on the link below. It'd be great to have you with me. And also, if you'd like to get your 12-month forecast and character analysis based on your time, date and place of birth, and ascend above your zodiac sign and really get much greater understanding of what makes you tick and your potentials in the time ahead, there is 30% off with my special offer. Please see the link for that below too. Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for April. Now, as this month begins, there's an incredibly creative and positive new moon for your sign in particular. This is because your sister fire sign of Aries is enjoying the first new moon of the year on the first day, but it's also in a conjunction with Mercury. Mercury is very much about how we think, how we express our ideas, and in the 5th house for you, allied to the sun and the moon, it really gives you an opportunity to be fun, to be quick-witted, and if there are things that you want to share with people that you're really enthusiastic about, which is one of your greatest traits, a great platform in order to do so. Now, you also have a very tight collaboration between Mars and Saturn through the first 9 days of this month, but they're in your sector of everyday communication, which of course Mercury kind of influences through the sign of Gemini. So you will need to choose your words carefully during this period of time, but if you do, you think things through, you're very strategic, what you say is what you mean, then other people can be very receptive to your message. But your 4th house, which is very much to do with home, family, emotions, is actually really incredibly lit up this month. And there could be some fantastic news about a property matter, an addition to the family, about something to do with someone in your extended family or emotional circle, or your own emotional development, which turns out to be incredibly uplifting. Now, one of the reasons for this is that your ruling planet Jupiter also governs the sign of Pisces, and it's back there and it's allied to Neptune, the co-regent of Pisces, and they're going to be together within 3 degrees for the whole of this month. But on the 12th, they come into an exact conjunction. But they're boosted from the 5th by glorious Venus, and from the 15th by the more determined energies of Mars. So something big is definitely in the works around where you live, how you live there, with whom, about that new addition to the family, about your sense of emotional security. This is an area of life that maybe you haven't always prioritize, because your free-spiritedness and your adventurousness and your desire to explore are such incredibly strong elements of your nature. Unless you have a Cancerian ascendant, or you have a lot of energy in the 4th house of your natal horoscope, the chances are that your home and family life have been very important to you, but they've been adjuncts to other exciting parts of your activities. Now that can change this month. Your home environment can be the base for so much good that's going to work its way into your situation. Now Mercury at the start of this month in your 5th house then moves on the 11th into the 6th. Now the 6th house for you is very redolent of the energy of Virgo, which Mercury governs. So practicalities are important. If the talented and exciting ideas you're manifesting at the start of this month can be then packaged in a way which is workable and gives tangible results, you're going to get your rewards from the 11th, but particularly from the 16th to the 20th, when Mercury aligns with Uranus. Now you can be very much a trendsetter, very forward thinking, and that future orientated part of your nature can be applied to your domestic scene as much as it can to brilliant ideas around technology, around services. All these areas can see you really flourish. But as I mentioned, Jupiter, your ruler, does go into an exact alliance with Neptune on the 12th. Some kind of magical news can come at that point. Now, once Mars moves on the 15th, it's important to know that Mars in the 4th house can be a bit defensive. It's a bit like if people have got Mars in the 4th house natally, or they've got it in Cancer natally. So the important thing here is not to let defensiveness creep into your approach if things do in any way threaten your sense of peace and tranquility. But what you can do is use Mars and the drive of Mars to transform the physical plane of your environment by refitting a kitchen, laying some carpet, doing some decorating, just really getting busy with Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Neptune all in your 4th house. Very exciting. But then on the 16th we have a full moon, but from the 15th through to the 19th the Sun is clashing with Pluto. Now Pluto's in your sector of resources, and the last few years has been quite a tough hoe, I feel, for your income. Now it doesn't mean to say that you've lost your income. It could be that you've had to adapt in some ways, or it may be that if you work for yourself, something that was productive for you has had to make way for something fresh. And of course, Saturn's now in your sector of ideas and asking you to frame your ideas in a very disciplined way. But Pluto's right angle to the Sun does suggest if you are tempted to be a bit extravagant with your resources or overindulge a loved one, try to resist. The full moon on the 16th pivots between the moon at one end in Libra, the Sun in Aries, and the midpoint between them is in Pluto, which for you is your 2nd house. So your attitudes around values and friendships and your love life could come under the astral microscope over the next couple of weeks. But on the 20th, the Sun powers into your sector of practicality, joining up with Mercury initially, with the North Node and with Uranus. And this could point towards a change in terms of your employment situation, particularly if you're involved in a role that doesn't give you much personal satisfaction. If there's part of you that wants to help people, it's going to come to the fore in the last 10 days of this month. But Pluto does go retrograde on the 29th, so continue to work hard at marshalling your resources carefully over the next 4.5 months. But Mercury goes into your opposite sign on the 29th too, and that can be a good news story for a relationship. There could be a contract forged at this point. You could hear some very good news. And then there is the second new moon of the month, the black moon, on the 30th in the sign of Taurus, but it's forging a sensational link to Mars. If ever there was a set of energies which can help you to galvanize your immediate environment, this is it. And even if you're someone who does have a little bit of a low attention span for those everyday practicalities, because you have got such a big appetite for knowledge, exciting travel or interest, you know, you're very much a global type of person. Well, you're being asked at the end of this month to get the base camp of your situation really working as productively as you can, and there's every chance you will. And with Venus and Neptune coming together in the last 5 days in the most magical of ways, there could be some fabulous family news that breaks at that time too.